Greetings, my brothers and sisters. Sending gratitude to all of you who are joining in today to accompany us down the rabbit hole of self-exploration through plant medicines. My name is Ryan Sprague, and I'm here to tell you that your frequency is now set and tuned to explore psychedelic medicines and the impact they've made among the countless psychonauts exploring the last true frontier. Buy a ticket and take the ride with me as we get true first-hand accounts of the experiences, benefits, risks, and transformations taking place within the ever-expanding world of psychedelic medicines on This One Time on Psychedelics. I imagine I speak for all of you currently listening to this show when I say that some of the most awe-inspiring, passion-fueling, and love-creating experiences I've been fortunate enough to have within my life have been a result of sitting in ceremony with plant medicines. This being said, I have found that when I have had these experiences with my partner, a whole new world of depth into these areas and more becomes available. The ability to see one another for who we truly are as divine beings embodied into physical flesh and have a good cosmic giggle on this notion have been some of the memories I can think back on that have allowed her and I to grow so much closer. In addition, taking these enhanced states of passion and love and creating the most intimate lovemaking sessions is yet another way we have been able to grow closer not only as lovers, but also as best friends who are choosing to experience this magical ride of life together. As I imagine you could tell by that juicy buildup, my beautiful partner is returning to the show today to dive back into the rabbit hole of plant medicines with me and all of you, and illuminate the potential to unlock heightened states of awareness, such as passion, creativity, and love within the plant medicine space. She is freshly back from her latest Goddess Getaway retreat, where she led 10 women on a journey of death and rebirth into the outdated identities they were yearning to release and the new identities they were looking to embody in their place. And within this episode, we will be discussing the role that plant medicines have played in her unlocking her full potential, how they've helped us grow closer to one another, the mystical experiences we've had together, and much, much more. Make sure to strap your inspiration and creativity caps on and give me a big hand in welcoming the beautiful Miss Rachel Varitimos back onto the show. Ray, what's up?
I giggled when you said guiding women through death. I was like, wait, death?
You had to have the rebirth part on there too, you know?
Yeah. Thanks, Bob. That was sweet.
Absolutely. You know, I had to come correct. I was making an intro for you, right? And it was really easy, actually. You know, for everyone listening, the way I write intros, what I do, and this is actually how I write my posts and everything, is I'll find what music has resonated with me, which today was Bob Marley, and I'll put that on and I'll immediately tap into whatever like life force energy I need. Usually I would, synonymize it with love, passion, creativity, a lot of the things I talked about in there. But, I tap into those and then the intros and outros and my posts and whatever just fly out of me. And so that's what I did for your intro, Waiting in Vain, which is one of our favorite mutual Bob Marley songs. You probably don't know the name of it. I just play it for you all the time.
As soon as you said that, I was like, I don't know what song that is.
Don't worry. I'll keep playing it for you. But, it's been a while since we've had you on this show. And, you and I were talking about having you back on because there's been a lot happening, right? And a big part of this that I talk about a lot in these episodes is that where we'll definitely be getting into some of the mystical experiences we've had, there's a certain point at which life itself becomes a psychedelic. And in my experience, why and how that's happened is because I've been able to take those experiences and integrate them into my life. So if we think about the concept of integration, what I've come to understand about integration is that like what you experience in that PEAK plant medicine experience is actually able to be integrated into your life in a way that allows, like I said, life to literally become more of a psychedelic experience where you're, dancing with the energies you feel in those plant medicine ceremonies. You're more tapped into who you are. You're more connected to the people around you and all those types of things. And so for you, you have been integrating like a master, right? Not like, as a master, all the experiences you've had and we've had together. And now you've been able to, not only create your business, which we touched on in the first episode, but now like the Goddess Getaway retreats, they're going amazing. You've been having so many awe-inspiring awarenesses pop in. And so I'd love if you could bring us on a little update, what's been going on with the Goddess Getaway, what's been going on. I mean, we've had a couple plant medicine experiences recently we can touch on, but just bring us up to date, from the first episode. What's been going on in Rachel's world since the last time we've been on?
Yeah, so I'm pretty sure last time we came on, we talked about that big psychedelic tea that me and you did on mushrooms last Valentine's Day, where me and you made I think it was a 10.5 gram tea, split it between two of us. And me and him do that often. If you go back and listen to the episode, you'll hear all the deets, but it was intense. And I think part of it was because we had just done 5-MeO DMT for the first time only maybe like a month before, almost exactly a month before. And I think that was still in my system or something because I went out of there. Like I was actually in the middle of planning my first retreat. And I had these waves of inspiration and excitement. And the inspiration and excitement is what got me to book the house and put the money into it and do the scary part. And then throughout the month of last February, it was just these ups and downs of pooping my pants and wondering whether this was a huge mistake, whether I'm an idiot, whether this is crazy, and then feeling inspired again. So part of what I wanted to do on that psychedelic journey, as me and you always do, is ask for answers, ask for clarity, ask for intention. And I mentioned this in the last episode, but I ended up on this like 4 or 5 hour mantra bender. It was as if I entered.
It really was a bender.
It was. Of the same mantra over and over, playing in my head for 4 to 5 hours. And that mantra was, let go and trust. You can have anything you want, which at first was super nice to hear because it's a nice mantra. And after 5 hours, I wanted to punch myself in the face because I was done with the mantra. I was done with it. But I will say that mantra really instilled in me, I believe through my unconscious, like my subconscious, that if I do let go and trust, I can have anything I want. And that was really the basis for this whole past year. So I'm pretty sure we did that trip about 2 weeks or a week after me booking the house, investing my money. Within the next few weeks after doing the trip, I just was embodying that mantra. I just kept repeating it to myself, even though it was really annoying to me after a while. I believed it at that point. And I ended up filling my whole retreat within a month, which was insane to me because at that point I was a one-on-one coach and only had, I think, 4 one-on-one clients in starting my business. And I was expecting myself to fill up a retreat with 14 people. And I did it somehow. I filled it with 14 people, and I believe it's because I was diving headfirst into that idea that if I let go, trust, follow my inspiration, follow that feeling like when you have a really good cup of coffee or you have a kratom and you're like high on life, following the high on life feeling towards the scary, leaps of faith. And my first retreat was so amazing. It was so much confirmation that I was on the right path. And it was actually a lot of confirmation of that mantra I heard on that psychedelic trip, that if I do let go and trust, I can have anything I want. And so I continued to host more retreats. The second I got home, I was so inspired from that first retreat. I immediately decided my next retreat was going to be in Sedona because some girl mentioned it on the retreat, my first retreat, that we should have it in Sedona. Started investing into that. That retreat, the house that I rented, was 4 times more expensive than the initial retreat house I got. So I was really pooping my pants. The poop was 4 times.
Yeah.
So
we should say it's not literal poop, guys. All right.
It was a load of
figurative
shit.
Poop, though. Yeah.
Load of figurative shit.
Yeah.
But yeah, that was really freaking scary for me. And it made me question that mantra. Can I really have anything I want? I just dropped a lot of money, in the how many 5-figure digits? Is that what it would be? 5-figure digit range. Did not have the money. So I remember a month and a half into planning this retreat, I think my fear was just taking over mostly, and I wasn't selling as many spots. I had sold a couple, and I decided I know I had the power of the unconscious, right? So the power of the unconscious is why I believe psychedelics can be so effective, especially in psychedelic therapy when you work on because it opens up your unconscious to be more influenced. So because I hadn't sold that many spots a month and a half in, I decided to sit down and start meditating. And I created this new manifestation practice that was to beef up the manifestation practice I had used to do my initial retreat. So I did this yoga nidra meditation where I would do yoga nidra 3 times a day. It was a 20-minute meditation. So 3 times, 20 minutes. And after the 20 minutes, I would visualize how it would feel to fill my whole Sedona retreat and how amazing the retreat goes for about 10 minutes. So like 30 minutes, 3 times a day, 20 minutes of yoga nidra, 10 minutes of visualizing 3 times. And by the 3rd day, 3 people signed up. Which is insane to me. Like literally, I'd just been meditating and I had 2 facilitators I hired for this retreat. And on the 3rd day, both of them posted about my retreat on their social media randomly. I never asked them to. And then that's when I got the 3 people to sign up. And then I just continued to roll until I filled up that retreat with about 18 people. And that was a terrifying retreat because it cost me a lot of money. And I ended up making money on that one still. So that was like the second proof that if I let go and trust and do the really scary thing, I can have anything I want. And when I say let go and trust, I would say the integrating piece was I didn't control it. When I wasn't making this or filling the spots I wanted to fill, I wasn't like pushing harder, being like, oh, I just need to talk to more people. I just need to do this. I need to do that. And when I push harder, that's when I find I cock block myself. Like when I try to force things.
Yes.
So the meditating was very in line with that let go and trust mantra because I decided to work on my subconscious and just start changing my overall like energy. And it was that energy, the letting go of control, of forcing, but just getting in the energy that attracted what I needed. And then for the 3rd retreat that I just got back from hosting, this is all in a year. And it all started with a psychedelic trip or a little bit. Actually, that started with the psychedelic trip when we did the 5-MAO. And then, anyways. So then I decided to go plan my retreat in Montana in the wintertime, which you'd think was crazy for doing that. But I just had so many synchronicities and I had learned so much from this past year about following the little synchronistic breadcrumbs, following the passion, letting go of logic. So like logic was a huge theme of this past year. Let go of logic, which logic I think of as control. So I was like, F it. I'm going to host a retreat in Montana in the winter and people are going to come. Ended up filling that retreat. We just got back. It was amazing. We went dog sledding. We had an ice bath outside. It was actually the perfect winter vibes and I wouldn't have had it any other way. I'm so happy I had a winter retreat in a snowy, wintry state like Montana. I would say this past year has been integrating those 2 trips, the one on 5-MAO DMT where I originally decided to do the retreat, and then the let go and trust when we did the mushrooms mantra was the theme for my whole year. And that intention of let go and trust like carried me along to each retreat to not control and force the outcome, but to get in the energy of the outcome and be present and notice synchronicities.
Hey everybody, I hope you're enjoying the show. I wanted to take a quick moment to let you all know that the doors are officially open for the Conscious Cannabis Collective. And as such, this is the last week you can sign up and receive all of the bonuses we're currently including. This is the last time I will be personally onboarding those of you who sign up with a complimentary one-on-one session, and you'll have the ability to get the Grow with Cannabis course for free during this limited time. For more info on how you can take advantage of this offer, head down to the show notes for this episode and secure your spot today, as we only have so many spots left and they are filling up quickly. Now back to the show. Hello everybody, I hope you are all enjoying the show. I wanted to stop by and fill you in on our brand new, completely free to join Facebook community called the Highly Optimized Ceremony Circle. Now I imagine many of you are aware of the newest creation within Highly Optimized, which is the Connect with Cannabis 10-week coaching certification program. Alex and I have been having so much fun empowering coaches with the skill set of coaching with cannabis and helping them up-level their coaching practice that we wanted to create a place where anyone could join to ask questions, receive free information on how to work with cannabis in the way we teach in the program, and be able to gain clarity around how to get the best results with their clients in order to become financially independent in their coaching practice. To join, hop over to the link in our Instagram bio and send us a request. It is our intention to assist as many coaches, facilitators, and healers as possible in the important work they are doing in the world. And if you are looking to join a community of like-minded individuals just like you, who are passionate about helping their clients achieve the highest quality of life possible, the Highly Optimized Ceremony Circle is for you. I am looking forward to speaking with all of you in the group, and as always, enjoy the show. You know, it's such a beautiful journey, and of course, I've been a part of it, so I've seen it happen in real time. But what I really love about it is that not only did you do it, but you're also aware that the PEAK experience, and this is what I talk about all the time in the show, it's all well and good. If you discern and choose that you want to have a psychedelic experience, I'm not a rules guy, right? So I'm not going to say you have to make intention. I'm not going to say you have to integrate, right? I'm going to give you tips from, me having had experiences where I've done those things and then also not done those things and what they've done for me. But everyone gets to make their own choices. I'm a choices and decisions type of guy. But what I've noticed in my own experience and with you as well is that the PEAK experience is simply an awareness that can be gained. But then you have to go out and actually move your feet. And there's a great Quaker quote from the Quaker branch of Christianity that says, pray and move your feet. And I think a lot of people get either one side of that, but they don't get both, right? There's a lot of people that, that visualize all the time, but they're not ready to go actually move their feet. And there's people that are moving their feet from logic and reason, but they're not coming from a place of inspiration. And so what they end up manifesting in their life is not what they actually want. And they're like, why do I keep getting more of what I don't want? And it's like, well, your language probably isn't right. You're probably not actually coming from a place of inspiration. You're probably coming from programs that were instilled from your parents, society, et cetera, et cetera. But what I love about your journey is that you are aware that it's not enough to just have the experience, right? And I'm not saying that there's never a time to just have an experience, right? Because again, that's not my place to say what's right and wrong. But what I will say is that when you're able to have an experience like that and also have the support around you from people that understand you, like our good friend Mark England, who helped you right after that 5-MeO experience, actually write your story out past tense of you, creating that retreat. And, really what I'm getting at here is when you have the support around you and the tools handy. And I think that's the argument for why I work with coaches. That's why I coach. That's why you coach, right? Because people need guidance. And, a lot of the times, even though you've done so much in a short amount of time, one of the main reasons you've been able to do that, I imagine, and correct me if I'm wrong, is because you understand why people need guidance in the world and why guidance is such a powerful thing. Because, for a long time, I fell into the trap that most people fall into, which is like, what's the most valuable commodity? It's money. But in the end of the day, it's actually not. It's time, because billionaires who have all the money in the world, they want more time, but they can't get it, right? If their health is declining. And so what you were able to do during that time is not only have that experience, but, have the people around you that you worked with that allowed you to hack the time paradox, right? And be able to up-level yourself much quicker. And really, this is where you get to actually have, the notion of anything is possible turn into a verb, right? Rather than a noun. Because when it's a noun, you know it. When it becomes a verb, you realize it and therefore integrate it.
Yeah, as you were talking, I was thinking about this example that I've heard recently when it comes to the visualizing, getting in the energy, and then moving your feet. And it's almost like bringing the intangible with the visualizing into reality with moving your feet, so into the ground level. I was thinking about this at the gym this morning, actually. How that example that people talk about of commanding attention versus demanding attention?
Yes.
There's a difference in energy. And I'm sure people listening to this even see this in social media. We have so many coaches, so many people talking about facts they know on social media. And for some reason, even if both of the people are talking from just their personal experience, let's say neither of them's a doctor, we trust one of them, but we don't trust the other one. One person commands the energy. One person demands the energy or the attention. Demands people listen to them. One person commands people listen to them. And if we think about it, what's the difference to you? And I'll talk about the difference to me is when I demand energy or demand attention. I don't know wwhy I keep calling it energy.
Well, attention is energy, right?
Yeah. When I demand attention, it's more whiny. It's more like, look at me. Like, am I enough? You better look at me. I have things to say. Like I'm demanding it now. You need to look at me now. Whereas when we're commanding, the background thoughts are like, I know what the F I'm talking about. These people are going to listen to me or they're not, but I'm going to announce it to everyone, and I'm going to say it in such like a strong voice because I feel so strong in this that people just listen to me. It's like, hey, everyone, we need to go out that door right now, for example. That's different than demanding. Commanding comes from internal strength. It comes from different unconscious thoughts going on in the background. And to me, that's a really good example of if we're just taking action and we have the thoughts of, I'm not enough. Oh, I need to take more action because of this. Or like, oh, maybe if I do this, then I'll be better. Or like, if I do this, then I'm enough. When we're demanding anything to come into our life, it's demanding energy because we have all these thoughts going on in the background. And that's why we're taking so much demanding action, but we're not getting anywhere. It's because we're like in the whiny energy and people can sense it. It's like someone walking around with bad body odor. People can smell it. Like may not be able to smell it, but people can smell it.
Yes.
Right?
They speak energy fluently, right?
Exactly.
Like people do, whether or not they realize it. And, it's interesting you bring that point up because that really illuminates for me what David Hawkins talks about with power versus force, right? Power is more of that command, right? It's more of like, I have things to share and I'm hoping they land for you. Right? There's no necessity there of whether or not people like it, don't like it, etc. It's really free of all attachment. Whereas demanding is more force, right? Where it's like, you need to work with me because you don't know what you're doing, right? And, whether or not that's accurate, inaccurate, true, not true, whatever, someone might say, it's the energetic signature put behind it. It's the same way, like inflection tones do this, right? Where, and you can really, like, to bring this back to psychedelics too, like, you can understand this stuff more, at least I've found, when I'm in that psychedelic space. That's what allowed me, because I've integrated it now, to understand like really how deep this goes. And so like for me, it's the same thing as saying like, I trust you versus like, I trust you. It's like, it's a different energy. And so for anyone listening who's like, what are they like? This is what, exactly what you're talking about, right? Which is like commanding versus demanding is a very different energetic signature. And, for me, from my plant medicine experiences, it's allowed me to come much more from a commanding point of view rather than a demanding, because I'm not worried about who does and does not resonate with my message. For me, I understand at this point that I'm never going to make everyone happy, right? I like to say I'm a recovering people pleaser. And so for me, for a long time, I ended up looking to make everyone happy. And who was the person that ended up unhappy the most? Me. Because I came last. And now I make sure I come first, not because it's selfish, but because it's selfless selfishness, right? So this is another thing plant medicines have taught me, as within, so without, all of these types of, ideas and notions we hear about. But in reality, how I've integrated it is realizing like, oh no, if I actually care about you, if I care about my friends and family, I'm going to put myself first so that my cup is so full that I'm able to actually hold space and be of support of them and for my clients and everyone when they need it. And this realization has been one that's been integrating into my life for the last couple of years. And now it's allowed me to, when I speak on the podcast, when I speak anywhere, I speak about my point of view, and I say all the time, I don't know anything. This is just what I choose to believe at this moment. It could change a minute from now. It could never change, right? But, the most important thing that I think we're getting at here is, when you realize that you're not going to make everyone happy, and the more that you are your authentic self and you come from your authentic voice, aka commanding, right? You're able to say what you really feel, and the people that are meant to pick up on that will, and the people that aren't will find their other people. It's so much of a better energy than demanding, right? We know what demanding is. It's kind of like the whole political game, right?
I think demanding is coming from scarce energy, whereas commanding, and it's the same thing with what psychedelics help you do, come from whole, complete energy. Yeah. It's like a sturdy platform to stand on versus a weak platform that might fall any second.
Absolutely. And we see like, again, I don't know anything, but what I've noticed is that we see it with a lot of the narratives going on right now. And I won't necessarily say what narratives, but I imagine everyone listening, exactly what rabbit hole I'm talking about. We see it, right? Where, regardless of what side you're on or whatever, one side is kind of like that stalker boyfriend energy where it's like, come on, you got to do this thing. Come on. Like, I'm going to ruin your whole reputation. I'm going to make you lose your job. I'm going to stalk you, like straight up that kind of energy versus like, make your own decision. You're a sovereign being, right? Like It's that difference right
You know,
there.
me and you I talked about this with someone last night, that you and I, the dynamic of our relationship, the energy of it has even changed.
Mm-hmm.
And I actually believe it's more on my part, because my energy has changed, because I used to be a little bit more controlling and didn't even realize I was.
A little bit? No, I'm just kidding.
Well, I'm just thinking like over the summer when
Yeah.
like I can't even remember a little example, but me and you got to this was actually after a psychedelic. Me and you got to this rock bottom place after doing Molly, MDMA, on the 3rd of July. And we were just so drained the next day. And I decided to pull a controlling card, which was, I forget, maybe I just wanted you to spend more time with me at the party. And I was like, what the heck? Like, you should spend more time with me. Like, you should want to, you should this, annoying girlfriend shit. And I never realized that me doing that was me controlling other people. I thought that was just the storyline of how relationships should, quote unquote, should work. And so I was projecting that story onto our relationship, and it was actually controlling. And you brought that up to me because you're just like at this like dead end point.
I was calm, cool, collected like a cucumber. And I feel like, I didn't mean to cut you off, but this is like really exciting because this is something
so
that
exciting.
No, it is. It's really exciting.
It was a good turning point.
It was one of the best discussions we've had. And I say discussion because it wasn't an argument. Like neither of us raised our voices once. We came from complete heart space. We were in a parking lot, right? This is like the day after we were in like a CVS parking lot, right? And this is like, not only did the name Highly Optimized come out in a Stop and Shop parking lot, we have a lot of good discussions in parking lots, right? I don't know what it is about a parking lot, but there's something there. But, this is actually a really good point to shift into the whole idea of love and how we've cultivated deeper love through psychedelics, because a lot of people think, especially when they hear about a medicine like MDMA, that like, oh, it's when you're on the MDMA that you have this increased love and everything. But I actually counter that. Right? Because I think it's the next day. Most people were like, if you talk to most people about MDMA, they're like, yeah, it's amazing. The next week though, it's pretty rough. I actually think that the next week is the real medicine, because yes, like the PEAK experience, you have this connection to your heart, you're experiencing, you're connected, all of that stuff. But the next day, you're depleted, right? Like you have, if you want to talk scientifically, less neurotransmitters, dopamine, serotonin, et cetera. You're probably tired, all of these things. And whatever pain point you've had that you've been able to distract away, whatever pain point has been there, but you're like, I can just go clean the house and feel a little better with myself and I don't need to think about it. All of that is unable to be escaped from, right? Like it's all right there. And it's like so overwhelming that you're like, I must talk about this, right? And that's why that came out. And so you felt a need to talk about that. And because I was also depleted, right?
We were both depleted.
Yeah.
We both like squeezed the thing that we had been holding on to out of us.
Yeah. And it was amazing. And we grew so much closer from it. And, I think this is what, again, like I always use this analogy, but it's such a good analogy, which is like, a lot of times we think about people that look amazing, right? You talk about like a chiseled set of abs or something like that, right? People look at that and they're like, wow, how beautiful. But if you saw the process people go through to get those abs, it's not exactly a beautiful process. There's sweat on the floor. There's sometimes blood, depending on if you hit yourself with a kettlebell. I mean, it's a pretty brutal process. But people learn to love that process, right? Because they understand that it's actually like the journey that's the real gem. And so I think we're talking about the same thing here where, when you're able to actually see an experience like that we had as like, wow, that was the thing, right? A lot of people think that it's the PEAK experience. I did for a long time, right? That's going to be the time where you heal trauma and all this stuff. In my experience, it's actually like the days, weeks, months ahead of that.
It's like the rock bottom moments where you're forced to face the darkest, scariest things that you think in your head but don't know are true, and then you hear it from someone else, and then you go on this downward spiral and you think the world's gonna end, but then it doesn't end, and then you switch it around and you're like, okay, I have two options. I can keep this going and blow it up, and because I know it's at I could literally press the button right now and explode all of it, or I can swallow my pride. I can really sit and see where I have responsibility in this, and I can take this as an opportunity to grow. And I would say that was that moment for me, especially when you told me that you did feel controlled. I felt horrible. Like, I remember the depth of how horrible I felt about that. It was like that feeling you have to poop because you're so upset.
Yeah.
I know I keep talking about poop. Clearly I like it. But
it's the extra subject in today's episode, you know? Brought to you by.
So yeah, it felt so horrible. And I find that's been a theme throughout my whole life. The times when I change the strongest and make the biggest pivots in my life, it's usually at a rock bottom, really uncomfortable moment where I have to face myself. And I just remember since then, I decided to like really take awareness to when I was trying to control you in any way and project my story of how you should act in any way. And since then, I turned that back on me. So instead of externalizing my power and say, oh no, you have to act this way to keep the peace, to be happy, to be a good boyfriend, to be this or whatever, I turned it back on me and said, okay, Rachel, what can you give yourself to make you happy? Because you can't keep controlling other people. It's not going to end well for you. And so since I would say that summertime when this happened, that's been my whole focus and intention. And now me and you, our relationship is so much better, which we're 4 years in now.
Yeah.
But it was like this exponential growth in strength in our relationship where we don't have the same fights anymore.
100%. I mean, if we could use a couple terms that are pretty cliche these days, but I think they really, reign true here, safety and being seen, right? Like, we are able to feel more comfortable and safe with each other because we're able to see each other a little more now, right? Like, for me, I imagine anyone listening can understand this yet if you don't know me personally. I'm a big goofball, right? Like, I when I'm at a party, I like to run around. I like to talk to everyone. People grab me. We're making bags on the volcano. I'm pretty much like a little kid. Like, you bring a little kid to a party at an amusement park, and it's like almost like, imagine if you told that kid, like, you have to be back here by this minute, right? Is that kid going to remember that? Hell no. That kid's going to be out there popping balloons with darts and winning stuffed animals out of a claw machine. And then eventually you're going to go up to him and be like, hey, it's that time. And they're like, I didn't even know, right? That's my energy when I go into, party type atmospheres. And it was I didn't even really realize how much I was like that until I had to like really see myself, right, as within, so without, enough to tell you that. And then because I was able to communicate that, yes, I am feeling this way, and yes, this is a thing, then you were able to get validation for how you were feeling and go, oh, interesting. And so it was a two-part thing, right? Like, it was neither of our faults. It was neither one of our issues. It was a mutual thing that really we allowed to come out one another. And this is a great opportunity to say that, what I believe relationships are a unspoken agreement to project on one another with the unconscious intention of healing one another. Now, when you bring that into the conscious, you can start playing with that in wildly different ways, right? Like, one of the areas that I really feel we bond hard on is cannabis, right? Like, you and I have gone through many different iterations with cannabis. It's how we met. I mean, legitimately, for everyone listening, we met at the dispensary. And I was like, who is this girl walking in? I'm definitely going to say that my register's open, And for anyone who ever visited me at the dispensary, I was famous for picking and choosing who I worked with. And so, as soon as Rachel came in, I'm like, yes, I'm open. Come on over. And
that was at the interview for me too. You're the first person I decided to buy Black Widow terpenes while I was waiting to be interviewed there. Yeah,
yes.
Good times.
It was amazing. And, these days, like, even last night, right, we had an amazing conversation that was it was like one of the most healing conversations I think we've ever had. And it was complete nonsense.
Well, we didn't
right?
talk about anything.
I know. It was amazing. Like, we both are medicated, right? And, for everyone listening, I normally take dietas from Cannabis Monday through Friday. And so I've been experimenting because we're together on the weekends and because, normally we'll interact with Cannabis together, I've been yearning for a little bit more solo time with Cannabis. And so, what I did last night was I experimented with what happens if I interact with Cannabis on a Monday? Haven't done that in a few years. And so I did that. And I felt this, and we could go into that whole story. It was unbelievable presence and amazing connection to myself and all this stuff. But when we talked to each other, right? It was like there was not that there ever is like pressure or anything, but you guys know how it feels in your sober state. Sometimes you're like, hey, work, this is what I did, blah, blah, blah. Like you're kind of just offloading and talking about.
Especially Bub. Sometimes we get on the phone and 23 minutes later, he still was talking from the first second we got on.
Blame it on the projector, blame it on being a projector in human design, guilty as charged. But, one of the things that was so fun was that we were taking ourselves as least seriously as we possibly could. We were joking the entire time. I was trying to make you laugh as much as possible. And we just had the best 25-minute conversation that literally charged my battery all the way until I woke up today and I started my day on a great note. It's still a great note. I mean, we're getting a podcast here. And so there's so many areas that, plant medicines have helped us with and continue to help us with. But, one of the things that, and we've been talking about it this whole episode so far, but, one of the things I love to share with people is like, hey, life itself is the psychedelic. Like these psychedelics only illuminate what's already there, what's already possible. And I think what we've done such a beautiful job of doing so far, and we're going to dive deeper into it, is actually talking about like, what are the quantifiable, tangible changes that have happened in our lives as a result of these medicines. Now, again, we do a lot of stuff. We hit a lot of buttons. We're into tons of different self-development. We do a lot of stuff. So there's no necessarily correlation equals causation. But I will say that there is a strong correlation, right, between times in which I have interacted with psychedelics and then like the next 6 months of my life, year of my life, 2 years, 3 years being very different. And a lot of it is challenging. I mean, I remember it was right around the last time I interacted with LSD. And I remember the next 4 or 5 months, this is also when I got into mystical school, were like hard shadow, like just facing my shadow every day, all day. Because I wasn't actually facing it. I was like resisting it a little bit, white knuckling it. And when I was able to finally surrender into that, cannabis was actually a huge help in that. I was able to accept like where I was falling short in business, where I needed to get a leg up. And then I was able to own up to that to myself. And then boom, the changes got made and it was fine. And I was like, wow, I resisted that for 4 months. And all I needed to do was just go, okay, this is how it is. And what do I want it to be? And then as soon as I was able to figure out what I want it to be, okay, cool. Now let's reverse engineer and get into that masculine left brain and go, what do I need to do? Do I need to wake up earlier? Do I need to get, my diet more on point? Do I need to say no more? All of these types of things. But it all starts with the awareness. And I think that's really what you and I have had happen over the last year. It's just an immense amount of awareness. But it's not enough to just have the awareness. It's the most crucial first step. But then you have to move into the acceptance, the surrender, and then actually taking the action from inspiration. What's up, ladies and gents? I wanted to take a second while I had your ear to share with all of you a very important announcement. Now, anyone who's been listening to the show for some time now knows that I am passionate about coaching and helping other coaches up-level their coaching practice. What I have noticed in working with hundreds of coaches is that coaches of all different types are facing challenges with being able to get their clients strong and consistent results, understand where to put their energy to allow their practices to thrive, stand out in the vast sea of coaches, move from imposter syndrome into trusting themselves, and ultimately make the money necessary to be financially independent in their coaching practice. The root of these issues comes down to a lack of connection with your creative force as a coach and entrepreneur. Now, this is why we at Highly Optimized have created the Connect with Cannabis 10-week coaching certification program. The reason that cannabis is the focus of our program is because cannabis acts as an imagination medicine. And in order to break free of these challenges, you must first be able to imagine yourself as the coach that is successful and has been able to break free of these challenges. When you are able to truly imagine and connect with the most powerful version of yourself, you can find the clarity to build your business, your authentic voice to speak directly to your clients, and the faith that you can overcome everything standing in your way. Once you have experienced and learned how to achieve these results for yourself, you will be able to offer this same unique skill set in your coaching practice to support your clients in overcoming their limiting beliefs and allow them to experience the breakthrough results that will make you stand out as a world-class coach. In this program, you will learn the science behind cannabis, how to experience the healing powers of cannabis, and how to facilitate these healing powers with your clients. With personalized one-on-one support on how to apply these frameworks into your business and weekly group calls within a community of coaches just like you will be equipped with a unique skill set that will allow you to get consistent, powerful results with your clients, feel confident in your coaching abilities, and allow you to gain financial independence while having the opportunity to wake up each day excited to share your important work with the world. For anyone listening who is hearing the call to set yourself apart and develop a unique set of coaching skills not found anywhere else in the world, jump over to the link on our Instagram bio and book a complimentary call with me today. Together, we will go over your current challenges in your business, your goals for your business, and decide together whether you qualify for a seat in the program. The next class begins February 9th, and spots are filling up quickly to be a part of the budding movement that is cannabis coaching. So book your call today and position yourself as a leading voice of how to work with this sacred plant medicine in your practice. Thank you all for your continued support, and as always, enjoy the show.
Yeah, I want to add on to the awareness piece, because I would actually say since the beginning of last year, which, like I said, this past year is one of the most growth-filled years of my life, to host 3 different retreats, take so many risks, all of those things. But this past year started with 2 big psychedelic trips, the 5-MeO DMT, and then a month later, the 5-gram mushroom tea. And we've done these trips, like a big trip once a year, and then we'll do other trips sprinkled in. And I think what I realized from this past year is the importance of what psychedelics does is it brings you into complete presence. Like, I know they've done studies on monks' brains and people on mushrooms' brains, and the brain scans look similar. And this past year, another theme has been really being present in my day-to-day life. And when I think about the part about psychedelics that helps me the most, it's the amount of presence that's brought in, and then the amount of self-trust that's brought in because of the presence. And one thing I've really realized over this past year is the more I think and control, like I think overthinking is a form of control. The more I do that, the less present I am, the less I trust myself, the less connected to myself I feel. And so a big part of my life has been checking back into the present moment and pretending like I'm in a psychedelic trip and trying to recreate a psychedelic trip every moment of my day. And the more I've practiced it, the easier it's gotten, where it's just something I remember to do throughout the day now. Like, I just remember to do it all the time. And I would say that's allowed me to trust myself even more and just literally let go and trust, because I know I can have anything I want when I stay present. And I think the more present we are, the more we notice things to reaffirm that we're on the right path and that we can trust. And that allows to accept, because it's like a deeper level of acceptance. It's a knowing.
Yeah, it's like the quote that I love, which is, if you follow the breadcrumb trail, you'll always be well fed. And, I think that speaks to that perfectly. And, one of the things that, got downloaded to me when we were talking too is, for anyone listening, one thing I've really come to understand in the last 10 years of interacting with psychedelics is that, when I first started in my journey, and I was very, unguided and, was just experimenting really. At that point in my life, there was cool stuff in my life. I was doing things that felt, quote unquote on purpose, but it was like a fraction. It was just the cherry, right? And I was missing the entire ice cream dish. And so, what happened as a result was that I would have this magical experience, and then my life would go back to normal, right? And I would want another magical experience. So I'd be quick to hit the button again and go back to another experience. And now we've come to a point where, maybe we have 1 a year, maybe 2, right? And then the rest of the year is spent integrating. And now the reason why that's been like able to be had is because the integration is where you get to take the magic you experienced and bring it into your everyday life. And that's, I think, what you were talking about.
Yeah, I literally, as you were talking, that's what I was trying to say is you can intentionally make regular life a psychedelic trip. When you get comfortable with the medicine and you've done it maybe a few big trips, or you've done it a few times, I think the magic comes when you take the lessons and you bring them into life. And most people don't do that. That's the huge missing link to so many people. And I think that's why when you set intention before going into a psychedelic trip, why it's extra powerful, because you get the intent, you get the answer in your psychedelic trip or whatever, or the intention plays out. And then it's easier to bring that intention into your everyday life and integrate the trip. Whereas if you just go in not having an intention, then what are you going to integrate?
Well, it's like, I see intention as your skin in the game, right? We all know that it's, we'd love as coaches to give our work to everyone for free, right? If money wasn't a thing. But what do I know about that, right? I've given out free coaching packages and people take it kind of half-assed, right? They're kind of doing stuff, they're kind of not. Versus when they pay money, they have skin in the game. The intention is the currency for psychedelic experiences, because then for 100% sure why you're entering that experience. Now that could blossom and change or whatever, but you have a guiding light, if you will. And so if your intention, let's say, is to, discover or illuminate a challenge you're having in life, right? Now, if you play out that intention and you get awareness to that challenge and then you do nothing about it, you can never say that, well, I don't know why, nothing happened after that. I have no idea why. No, because you didn't actually work to figure out and move your feet as to what that intention illuminated for you. And so it's the skin in the game, because for me, I'm a very good, one to be able to blend and people please and do these things, right? But at the end of the day, I always know if I'm falling short of myself. And that's something that, as my masculine has come more online, that is a necessity to know that I'm showing up for myself before anyone else, because I can only show up for anyone else the degree to which I'm showing up for myself. And so that has become an excitement for me now. When I choose to interact with psychedelics, when I feel the call, I really think about it for a long time, and I really figure out like what is the reason, right? What is my intention? What am I looking for in this? And then I prepare myself, because especially if you're going into it like, I want to let everything go or something like that, you better be prepared for what that's going to bring up, right? It could be a lot of heaving and sobbing. It could be a lot of very uncomfortable things. But at the same time, those uncomfortable things can actually be bliss. As Joseph Campbell says, bliss is any emotion felt all the way through when we choose to feel them all the way through. But I really feel that intention is that currency for psychedelic experiences. And when you are able to wield that intention with conscious sovereign action, the possibilities really are limitless. But, I really feel, and this is, again, I say this almost every episode, but one of the main reasons I made this show, because a lot of people talk about psychedelics, especially now, is they're amazing. You can just do them all the time. And, it's like, John Hopkins released this thing on psilocybin. It's the safest substance in the world. And I'm like, yes, that's all well and good. I'm very glad that research is coming out. But at the same time, like, first of all, what is the purpose of you doing it? Even if it's just, I want to enjoy myself, right? Like, just have some type of reason, because that breaks a potential pattern of unconscious or dependent use. And so we see this a lot with cannabis, especially in the industry. People just smoke and they start smoking and they smoke every night. So they're smoking tonight and they haven't really actually asked themselves, like, what am I looking for here? Right? And what I tell people all the time is, you don't need to do this. I'm not the one that's going to tell you what's right and wrong. But if you're starting to face some challenges in life and you don't know why, it might be worth looking at what you're choosing unconsciously. And a lot of times what people choose unconsciously, I know in my boat with cannabis, was I was choosing to numb out feelings every night because I wasn't ready to face them, because I knew I had perceived how much work, quote unquote, it would be to overcome those challenges. But what I failed to realize was that actually what cannabis was guiding me to was actually like the most fun work I had ever been a part of. And so it's a lot of flipping the script and doing these types of things. But yeah, I really feel these subjects aren't talked about nearly enough within the psychedelic space, of the power of intention and why you even do it, right? Like, we all know that, yeah, it's a thing, but why? Like, what is the real reason? Because I know for me, people can tell me like, oh, you should do this, you should do that. But I want to know why. Like, why? What's the thing? And so I love really illuminating for people what my why is and seeing if it resonates for them, what your why is, seeing if it resonates for anyone listening. And it's just, those are the ways I think that we actually allow ourselves to learn more, is not by, again, demanding, but commanding, right? This is what I do. If it resonates, take it. If not, oh, cool. Awesome. High five. Hope you have a great life. It's that easy.
Love it, bub.
Yeah. One of the things I'm really excited to talk about with you in this regard, and we got into a little bit, is the whole idea of, love, and the whole idea of, psychedelics being able to open you up to love. Because what I choose to believe, not because I can prove it quantitatively, but because the people that I trust and the people I've learned from and the sacred texts I've learned from have told me this, and I've experienced it with things like 5-MeO DMT, is that what we are is unconditional love, because love is the governing force of the universe. Love is everything. So if we come from everything, what must we be? Love. And so for me, I feel one of the most potent and powerful experiences I ever had was 5-MeO DMT, because I got to take that knowing, which was rooted in the 3D reality of the mind, and bring it into my heart and embody it, right? And realize it, make it real in my experience of life. And so I'm curious for you, like, have you thought about psychedelics this way, with being able to illuminate what unconditional love is and have you have that experience of it? And if so, what does that open up for you in your life in terms of like being able to infuse that love into the retreats you do, being able to look at people a little differently? Like, I'm curious what's there.
I would say psychedelics helped me with unconditional love. And I say that because I've felt the oneness a couple times on psychedelics before. And when you feel that, there's this unconditional love. There's no jealousy. There's no competition. There's nothing to worry about, because you feel that we are all one. So we are all winning together. And when we're all winning together, to me, that's unconditional love. Like, unconditional love, you can do anything you want because we all win.
Mm-hmm.
So yeah, I would say that I've felt that before. I'm a girl and I have some like wounds from relationships, like abandonment wounds, cheating, things like that. And I've literally felt in certain psychedelic trips any jealousy I might have had around, like, let's say another girl or something, right? Go away. And when I say another girl, I mean jealousy around, like, let's say my boyfriend's there and there's like a weird, you know what I'm saying?
I know
that's
exactly
another
what
thing
you're saying.
I've healed through a lot, I would say. And yeah, psychedelics have completely healed that part, like, in me, especially when I'm doing them.
Yeah, they've given you the opportunity to heal them, right? Because, what I believe is that psychedelics, they illuminate it. They don't necessarily heal it for you, but they give you the opportunity to do something with the awareness you've gained. And, one thing I'm curious on for you, because this is a juicy subject that I'm excited to get into, and we didn't talk about this, beforehand for everyone listening, so we'll see where this goes. But, one thing that I feel specifically cannabis has helped us a lot with, we've definitely interacted with mushrooms and of course MDMA in this way, but, is to have better sex, right? And this is something that, like, I feel is not talked about nearly enough for how many people interact with cannabis. I'm like, do you guys understand the potential that you can have with your partner? And there's so much there. But I'm curious on for you, and again, I didn't talk about this with you beforehand because I wanted to specifically have an improv session on this. I'm curious for you, both in your individual life and also in our relationship, have psychedelics, cannabis, anything you want to talk about, have psychedelics and plant medicines helped you be able to tap into your own sexual power more, and then also translate that to with me? I'm curious on what you'd have to say there.
Yeah, 100%. Because they make me more embodied. And I would say that's one of the biggest things that I don't think even just me, a lot of women struggle with, is getting out of their head during sex. So I know a lot of other women that I've talked to who they're having sex and they're thinking about, am I doing it right? Is my body being sexy? What am I doing for dinner? What am I doing tomorrow? What was yesterday like? I don't really like when he's doing, like, literally just like all in your head, just constantly. And it can be hard to get into your body again. And psychedelics for me is like the surefire way. I'm going to be in my body, and I've probably had some of the best sex in my life on psychedelics because I feel so embodied. And it's interesting. That's something that I'm curious if, hey, maybe if I practiced it more. I mean, you did it like all the time, like psychedelic sex. Like, would I be able to integrate that into normal day life where I start just being completely embodied? That's been a big thing that I've been, me, I've been focusing on my sexual journey a lot recently. Like, I've been following a lot of sex coaches and listening to all the sex podcasts and getting the toys and like trying out and like trying to like figure myself out. It's a thing right now. And I'm not alone.
It's amazing. I love this change. Like, I love that, sex is becoming something that we talk about more, especially for women, because I mean, you guys are like life creators. I mean, it makes so much sense. And it's such a long time coming where sex was this like boogeyman in the room, but yet everyone's walking around being a product of sex that their parents had. So it's such an interesting interesting paradigm. And, we've experimented a lot with this with cannabis, and it's part of what's in Connect with Cannabis is how much I realized like, whoa, cannabis can specifically bring you so much deeper into presence and also allow you to have fun and giggle a lot, right? Like that's a big part of it too.
I find that on cannabis, I'm almost too tired for it, but mushrooms is what is more my drug of choice when it comes to getting embodied. Yeah.
And I feel like, one download that just got illuminated for me is that, how like, all right, you're taking a test in school and maybe you studied, but like you're in your head too much and the answer's kind of just like, maybe you have like social anxiety, there's people around you, maybe there's a timer for this test and you're just like, I can't get there. Imagine if in that moment the teacher could go, hey, I know you studied, here's the answers to the test, look at them real quick. And then like, okay, now I get them, go back to your test. That's what psychedelics have been for me with regards to a lot of stuff, but especially sex, right? It's almost like I get the answers to the test, like, oh, this is what I imagine and what I now know in my own personal experience, the best sex to feel like. So then I have the answers to the test. So then when I'm in my sober state of reality, I can compare and go, how close am I to what I experienced there? And what might be holding me back from having that same level of sex that I had when I was on psychedelics? And so I think we're talking about what integration is, right, in a nutshell. But, specifically in the realm of sex, that's what I've used it for. With cannabis, with these things, I notice like, ooh, I'm more in my body when I'm interacting with cannabis. I'm taking myself less seriously. I'm more in the moment, right? All of these types of things that then when I might be sober with you and we're engaging in a sexual activity and maybe like I'm thinking about work, maybe I got my trainer coming later on, like
Bub's
any of these things.
Too.
Yes, guilty as charged, You guys heard it here first. But, men struggle with this stuff too, right? Like men are constantly, men are always worried about like, does my member look right? Is it big enough? All of these things that, we've been conditioned the same way you guys have into a lot of different things. Talk about, the challenges of pornography and all of that being such a big thing. And, all the weird expectations that both of our genders have gotten around what sex is supposed to be, a lot of times because of pornography, because we didn't have, at least in my case, and I imagine your case too, like sex ed in school was kind of a joke. It was really awkward and weird, and so, psychedelics have allowed me to tap much more into my, you could use the cliche quote unquote term divine masculine. You could use more of a blanket term of like my maturity with regards to sexuality, but it's so powerful. The reason why I wanted to talk about this is because, right now in society, especially what's happened in the last couple of years, we're going through this quote unquote epidemic of loneliness, which really is an epidemic of the inability to connect to yourself, to those you love, and the world around you. And that includes your romantic partners. And so what I imagine is really powerful is that psychedelics are illuminating one possible way, not the only way. No one needs to interact with these things to have this result. But for those that are called to it, and use discernment and choose that it's right for them in their lives, this can be an amazing path to give you the answers to the test, to learn how to connect deeper. And when you're able to connect deeper to yourself, those you love, and the world around you, you all of a sudden don't need all the material things to be happy. You just need some warm food, a shelter over your head, and some great people to spend time with, and you're good.
I think that's the biggest lesson that psychedelics teach. If I think about good mushroom trips, what it does is it puts you in so much presence and so much awe of life and everything around you that you don't need anything else but to just be internally like a person viewing out your eyeballs as if your eyeballs were windows at the world, like looking at different art forms and looking at it in different ways. I think psychedelics are almost like they're the training wheels for that.
Well, I think what you're talking about too is they allow you to go from an extra in your movie to not only the narrator, but the director, right? Where you start realizing like, oh my goodness, like at least I'll speak from my point of view. When I've had like experiences where like that mushroom tea experience where I went so far out that, I was like very, very out there. And I had that oneness experience where I was like, it's almost like if, the way I've always thought about it is when we come down here and embody this world, we were men in black, right? And then we're starting to curiously remember everything and follow the breadcrumbs. But some of these experiences have allowed me to become unmen in black for a second. And it's just the amount of cosmic giggles when I realized like, oh my God, dude, why are you not just full sending every aspect of your life? Like you're an infinite being. Death is just another chapter in a sea of infinite possibilities. what have you got to lose, right? I think a lot of people, especially right now, are looking to prioritize safety as a core value over experience, over fun, liberation, all of these other core values.
Yeah.
And I think that, one of the things that psychedelics have taught me is, listen, safety is almost like a misnomer, right? Like we're all going to die. There's no getting, safetying your way out of that. But what matters is what you do in between when you're born and when you pass on and when you leave this realm. And so psychedelics have allowed me to like have that cosmic giggle of like, oh my goodness, I am going to be my weirdest self. I'm going to let my freak flag fly high. I'm going to give life a full send. I'm going to have the best sex in my life. I'm going to be the best friend, the best coach, the best, boyfriend I can possibly be. I'm going to have the most fun I can podcast. I'm just going to do everything to 11 in the wise words of Spinal Tap. That's what they've taught me, really.
I love that. And I agree that it puts you in a place of thinking like, why was I even worrying about that thing? It removes the anxiety. It removes the ego. I would say when you're in a psychedelic trip, a big part of your ego that's trying to protect you is pushed to the side. It maybe it's not like it's dead. I'm not talking about an ego death, but it's just pushed to the side enough for you to feel how limitless you are. And when I was thinking, as you were talking about that, is me and you have a mutual friend who has died and come back to life three times, actually. Mm-hmm. And he just said he remembers the first time he died and he was 18. And I remember I don't know, wherever he just was looking down at his body saying... He drowned.
Yeah, he drowned under a waterfall.
Looking down over everyone and saying, oh my God, you worried so much. Why did you worry so much? You wasted so much energy worrying. And he said, I made a commitment that if I came back, I was going to just not worry because I was there to experience the world and I just spent the time worrying. And I think it's very similar with psychedelics where you realize oh my God, why do I spend so much time worrying? And you forget why you were worrying until you get off the trip. So it's about integrating that reminder back in, let go, be present. You don't have to worry. You're infinite, remember?
Yeah. I love that you brought up the whole ego thing because, as I imagine everyone listening knows, I'm a big language nerd. You are too, right? We love language work and, a lot of, especially men, men are famous for this where it's like, I'm going to go kill my ego. It's like, great. Go into a psychedelic experience thinking part of you is the enemy. Let's see how that plays out for you. Yikes. Right. But at the same time, I remember I had an experience at a men's retreat where, I forget exactly what my intention was, but I believe it was something along the lines of I wanted to meet myself fully. I wanted to see all the aspects of myself. And so the first aspect of me I met was my ego. And I remember I was taken aback. I was like, wow, what an absolute unit. It was like this gigantic megalithic rock structure that was pointy and sharp and structured. And I got to really have reverence for what this aspect of me does, how much it is doing for me constantly. And also that there's no part of this that is bad or anything. It just needs a software update every once in a while. And, what I imagine, your ego is your identity and kind of your bridge to this world, right? I mean, you could say the soul is the bridge, but really the ego is the bridge to this physical reality where I get to be Ryan, you get to be Rachel.
And we get to feel our emotions.
Exactly. And the ego can understand it's infinite as well. At least in my case, it can, right? And so, and I imagine for many other people, it can too. And so, one of the things I've noticed is that I have that experience of oh my God, why did I worry? Then I come back into my body and there's part of me that's telling me you need to worry, right? But that part, instead of being fuck you, I know I don't need to worry now because I became an infinite starseed and, my higher self told me, regardless of any of that, meeting that ego and being hey, I think you're running an outdated program. Let's go into this because you want to be successful. You want to feel fulfilled. The ego's hell yeah. It's all right, cool. I got your back. Let's do this together. And that's how I go into every psychedelic experience. I have a conversation with my ego and I'm listen, this is going to be a little jarring for you, right? I get it. You want to protect. Thank you for making sure the house is upkept and everything. We got this. We're going to do this together. And please be there for me during this. Let's have a conversation. Trust me that I know what we're doing. And also make sure come in and tell me hey, this is different than what I'm used to. What's going on here? Give me those challenges So then I make notes in my journal while I'm going through, like, okay, remember to, speak to the ego about this. Remember to speak to my ego about this. That way, when I come out of it, I can then integrate by meditating, doing breath work, et cetera, and going, hey, ego, let's experience this again. Remember this feeling we experienced? Let's experience this again. And then the ego starts to go, oh, okay, yeah, we actually, you know what? We do get better results when we have that program. So you know what? Scratch the old program, write this program in, we're good to go. And that's how I really feel we can meet every part of us. The ego is the one that gets the most flack, maybe the inner critic, but the ego specifically in the psychedelic space, there's a lot of challenging language around like, oh, kill your ego, all this stuff. When really my ego is my best friend. Like I love my ego to death because it protects me, right? But at the same time, a lot of the ways in which it's protected me, now that I'm an adult, I have realized like that's not my program. That's something I learned from a parent. That's something I learned from a teacher. That's someone I learned from someone in the world that had the best of intentions, but that was their perception of life. Now I get to make my own because I'm cleaning up, growing up, showing up, and waking up. And so I really feel we can come at the parts of ourselves that, can be a challenge in plant medicine experiences like the ego with that type of energy. We're much more able to love ourselves fully. And then we're able to laugh with the ego, to laugh with the heart, to laugh with the inner child, the inner critic, etc., and really, be the head of that table. If we think about all the voices and parts of us sitting at a table, we get to go from sitting at a seat of the table to the head of the table and go, okay, I hear what all these voices are saying, the ego, inner critic, inner child, all of these things, the heart, the soul. Now let's figure out a mutual agreement together so that we can all be in alignment with one another. And personally, that is what harmony means as a verb in my life. And I absolutely love that. It's powerful.
That's cool, bub.
Yeah.
Bub's a rock star.
It takes one to know one. It takes a rock star to know a rock star, as I once said.
That's what Bub says.
Yes. Well, Rach, this has been amazing. I've loved having you back on. Any chance I have to sit down with you in a podcast format, I love. I'm excited to come on your podcast soon. It's going to be really fun.
You haven't been on my podcast
I've yet to be on there.
What
I'm really stoked to be a guest on my lady's podcast. So where can people find you? Of course, you mentioned the Goddess Getaway. You mentioned your one-on-one work real quick. You have a lot of different offerings that you offer and a lot of different transformative, experiences you bring your clients through. Where can people find you to get in contact with you and learn more about what you do and whether or not they're a great fit for what you're doing?
Yeah, so you can find me on Instagram at Rachel_Varitimos. I don't know if I need to spell that on here or if you guys have show notes.
We'll put it in the show notes.
Sick. And then I got a Facebook group, a free Facebook group where I do live trainings every Wednesday evening. And you can come on the live trainings, and if you need to get coaching, you can get coaching or ask any questions. And I'm just there to be a free resource. I would say the people I work with the most are women who struggle, whatever it is, with self-love, confidence, self-trust, following their intuition. A lot of the women I work with are business owners or coaches starting their own businesses and wanting to trust themselves more, have more confidence, etc. So I call myself a woman empowerment coach because, like we talked about this whole episode, I help women bring their power back inside and form so much sturdiness and strength from within that they're unfuckwithable from the outside world. And we do that at my retreats and in my one-on-one coaching. I just finished my last retreat and I'm going to start planning my next one soon. So if you're on my Instagram, you can get the link to my free Facebook group, or you can get all my other links to figure out what else I'm doing.
Cool. And I've already asked you the original last question I asked, so I'm going to free flow one and we'll see how this comes out, right? All right? So if someone listening was just swayed by you to experience psychedelic medicines for the first time, what is the one piece of advice that Rachel Varitimos would give to allow them to integrate their experience the smoothest way possible?
Something that's been helpful for me, and I did this after the 5-MAO experience, was I had certain phrases that would repeat in my head during multiple psychedelic experiences. I've had certain phrases that repeat in my head. And one thing I've done that's been super helpful for integration is taking the mantra or whatever idea I realized, writing it on paper and repeating it to myself. I mean, that's why the let go and trust, you can have anything you want mantra has stuck with me since last February. So a year from now, it's something I still think about all the time. And I believe if you write that stuff down, the insights you get, and then rep them and practice presence and just rep them, that to me is like a really great way to integrate.
What I really love about that is it's exactly like Mark was talking about the other day, and that I've understood too, is, any of these mantras, affirmations, whatever you say, you want to take one that's a little bit outside of, like, it's stretching you a little bit, right? Like, let go and trust, you can have whatever you want. When you first started saying that, it was a little bit of a stretch. It wasn't so much that it was terrifying, but it was a little bit of a stretch. And so you said it, and then you acted in accordance with it. Your actions came from an alignment with that mantra until it became matter of fact. Like, now it's integrated into you. You're like, oh, I let go and trust. I can have whatever I want.
Yeah, I literally feel like anything I manifest will come into reality because I've just had so much proof over the scariest shit in my life over the last year. I mean, hosting retreats to me is scary.
Yeah. It's a lot of work, and, guiding people on any type of experience is always, it can be scary. But what I've learned is the times in which I feel a little scared are the times I also could feel most alive. Right. And so making that, flipping the script transformation has been powerful for me too. So I think that's beautiful advice.
Thanks, bub.
Yeah. Okay, guys. Having the opportunity to share the gift that is Rachel with all of you is truly something I have trouble putting into words. Rachel has taught me what unconditional love is and allowed that notion to transform from merely a noun to a potent verb within my experience of life. Our relationship with plant medicines and the ability for these medicines to not only connect us deeper to ourselves, but also allow each other to feel safe enough to take our armor completely off and be vulnerable with one another has allowed our relationship to blossom into one which, if I weren't writing this having experienced it, would be challenging to believe. I firmly believe these medicines are here to guide us in our ability to quote-unquote know thyself as the unconditional love we truly are at the heart of our souls and spirits. And when we can meet these medicines with the deep reverence and respect they deserve, the possibilities truly become limitless. For anyone who is looking to unlock their full potential, be a part of one of the most beautiful communities in existence, and have a place to feel at home within the magic that is you, make sure you reach out to Rachel to learn about her one-on-one work, her next Goddess Getaway retreat, and all of the delicious offers she is creating to help those she serves tap into their unique power zone and be able to give life the full send they know they are capable of accomplishing. Rachel, where do I even begin? Thank you for teaching me what unconditional love is, for being my rock when I feel lost at sea, for being a constant source of cosmic giggles and love within my life, and for doing the important work you are doing in the world at large. And until next time, may your journey be smooth and full of light. Aho.